Rise to pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In your packet, there was a set of minutes from June the 9th, 2020, which I'm sure all of you all read. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? If not, they stand approved as presented. Report of the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor Rush, members of council. I'd like to begin my report by bringing a special guest forward. Kirsten, if you can come up for a second. Joining us tonight is a very special guest, Ms. Kirsten Thompson. Kirsten is a member of American Heritage Girls and recently completed quite a bit of work at Greenwood Park under the supervision of DW Law Board to satisfy the requirements for the Stars and Stripes Award. And when I say she did quite a bit of work, we've got some photos, which I'm going to give to Julia for the official record, but she did some mulching work, painting, stocked the free library there, and built the free library. Thank you very much. Installed benches, just did a world of good, and we just wanted to build the benches too. Just wanted to thank her very much for those efforts and formally recognize her. Also, on an administrative note, I want to note that the town offices will be closed next Friday, July 3rd, in observance of the federal holiday. Any impacted services will reconvene Monday the 6th. And at this time, I'd also like to turn the microphone over to Chief Foreman for another special recognition.
Okay, thank you.
Tonight, we're going to call up Stephen Swain. He is a new officer with us, so he's going to be sworn in tonight. He was with Salem PD for 15 years and decided to come and join our department. About a month ago, we started through the process and he made it through fine. So Deborah, if you would like to come over and do the step up here.
I state your name.
I, Stephen Swain,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia,
and the laws and ordinances
and the laws and ordinances
of the town of Bedford,
of the town of Bedford,
that I will abide
that I will abide
by the code of ethics
by the code of ethics
for law enforcement officers
for law enforcement officers
and the rules and regulations
and the rules and regulations
of the town of Bedford Police Department,
of the town of Bedford Police Department,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially discharge
and impartially discharge
and perform all the duties
and perform all of the duties
incumbent upon me
incumbent upon me
as a police officer
as a police officer
for the town of Bedford,
for the town of Bedford,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my abilities,
so help me God.
so help me God. Thank you.
And I want to say you were there when Jeff Dudley was there. So you came from good stock.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That concludes my report, but I'll be pleased to respond to any questions you may have at this time.
Somebody has questions, I'm sure we'll have some later. Appearances before council. Deborah, are there any people signed up? Okay. Council comments, start to my left. Darren.
Four left. I have none.
No. No. Me neither. Report of council committees. I believe, CG, we had a committee meeting a while ago.
We had a committee meeting for the property Committee, and we discussed upgrades that need to be done to the Chamber of Commerce building next door here, and we will see a rollover in the near future at one of our council meetings to discuss it.
Any revisions to the agenda, Mr. Warren? Okay, no public hearing, consent agenda, appointment of members of the EDA.
There is a vacancy currently on the Economic Development Authority, said term to expire November 30th, 2020. Ms. Lynn Scott has expressed interest in the vacancy and is seeking appointment. The vacancy has been advertised and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. And tonight we are requesting that you appoint Ms. Lynn Scott to the Economic Development Authority, said term to expire November 30, 2020.
Is there a motion to appoint Lynn Scott to the EDA?
So moved. Second.
You get that, Judy?
First, Brian. Okay, thank you. You ready?
Roll
Roll
call.
call. Mr. Black? Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson? Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mayor Rush?
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
Okay. Next one is appointment of members of the Keep Bedford Beautiful Commission.
There is also a vacancy on the KBBC, said term to expire June 30th, 2023. Mr. Ed Adams has expressed interest in this vacancy and is seeking appointment. The vacancy has also been advertised and no other citizens have volunteered to serve. Tonight we are requesting that you appoint Mr. Ed Adams to serve on the Keep Bedford Beautiful Commission, said term to expire June 30, 2023.
Is there a motion to appoint Mr. Adams to the KBDC?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mayor Rush?
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
Okay, there's no old business, new business. Mr. Warner, solid waste delivery and disposal.
Yes, Mayor Rush, members of council, for the past several months, the town has been working directly with Bay's Trash Removal Incorporated for hauling and disposal of non-residential solid waste on a trial basis. Recently, Bay's executed a contract with Pittsylvania County as the ultimate destination for the combined load that they deliver, which includes our non-residential contribution. The terms of that contract guarantee a rate of $30 per ton for a period of 5 years. This is the lowest cost that we have identified for this particular activity, and as such, it should result in a significant savings in terms of our solid waste fund expenditures. Accordingly, tonight, we would ask for you all to pass a motion to formalize the relationship with Bay's Trash Removal. My recommendation is we have a memorandum of understanding in place with them, and our recommendation would be to extend that, referencing their contract with Pittsylvania County.
Is there a motion for,
I have a question.
well, let's get the motion, then deal with the discussion.
So moved.
Second.
Now, discussion.
So what you provided, it looks like the contract between Bays and Pennsylvania.
Correct.
And there was a third signature line here. Are they asking that we sign
No, that
it?
was,
Okay.
yeah. We are not a party to that contract.
Right, that's why I was wondering.
But we do wish to take advantage of the good terms
I
that
get it.
Bay's negotiated.
So there is going to be a written formalized agreement with Bays,
Yes, sir.
and we're voting for you to go ahead and do that. We haven't seen the agreement, but
It would be a memorandum of understanding, yes, sir.
referencing this.
And referencing the fees and the timeframe?
Yes.
This contract, okay.
And how long is this contract? 5 years?
The contract the Bay's has with Pennsylvania is for 5 years. We would reference that as well.
So we're just authorizing you to do the memorandum of understanding.
Correct.
We don't need to come back and review that.
Unless you don't want to save a lot of money.
We do, I mean, I'm just,
Just making sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there was some kind of agreement between us and Bayes that was formalized. you know.
Really, this is an operational issue. As much as anything, this is for the benefit of our customers, to let them know that we are doing everything we can to drive down expenditures.
Good.
Any other questions?
I just want to say, I want to thank Mr. Longpoint, the diligently working on this contract and getting on this contract.
Actually, the credit belongs to Mr. Lawhorn, but on behalf of staff, we thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second and a roll call.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Sorry.
Mayor Rush?
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
Okay, next will be the Bedford Middle School property lease and performance agreement. Roll call. So go ahead.
Well, just for the benefit of our citizens and those who are watching, due to the fire event late January, Dave McCormick, president of Waukesha, has adjusted the scope and timing related to the Bedford Middle School redevelopment project. The intended use of the renovated property has been amended by removing the auditorium in the brick building and replacing it with 10 additional apartment units. The time frame for the overall project has also been adjusted to guarantee 36 months for completion of the project. The existing lease and performance agreements needed to be amended to reflect those changes. And since the Town Economic Development Authority is also a party to this agreement, at their regular meeting on June 10th, that group voted to approve the amended agreements as presented. Tonight, we are requesting that Town Council also adopt the amended lease and performance agreements related to the redevelopment of the middle school property.
It is a motion to adopt this performance agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. I'll say that I think a couple meetings ago, we went through this diligently and with Mr. McCormick here.
Mm-hmm.
Came to a consensus.
And I'm deferring to Mr. Lockaby on this. I mean, it looks like he does fine work from what I've seen. And I look through the changes and it seems to reflect what we want, so I'm comfortable with it.
Anybody else? Roll call.
Mr. Schley?
Aye.
Mr. Schoen?
Aye.
Mr. Stanley?
Aye.
Mr. Black?
Aye.
Mr. Haley?
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson?
Aye.
Mayor Rush?
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
Finally, the zoning ordinance review contract.
Through a request for qualifications process initiated by the Planning Commission, EPRPC has submitted a proposed contract for review of the current town zoning ordinance and to issue a report on any recommended changes that they may identify. The price quoted for this work is $21,765 and would be paid from combining unused funds for professional services within the existing fiscal year 1920, that being the current year budget. Tonight, staff is requesting that council approve execution of the attached contract submitted by EPR for review of the zoning ordinance and publication of that company's findings.
Is there a motion?
Second.
Who was first?
Stacy,
Haley?
is there a discussion?
I'm deferring to Bart on this. My only concern is cost. I have no idea what this should cost, and I'm trusting that Bart has got us a good price on this, because it needs to be done, in my opinion. I know I pushed for it with the Planning Commission.
And I will say we did get a good price, and credit for that belongs to Ms. Zirkle, so I will pass that on to her.
So this is just the first phase of this process. Obviously, this is kind of a planning kind of phase, I guess.
We anticipate that they will recommend significant changes to zoning ordinance, if nothing else, in terms of format to make it more user-friendly. So the short answer is yes. The first step would be their analysis of what we have that works and what can then be changed. There would be a second phase for which we would have to identify some funding, but we did this to give ourselves time to identify possible grant sources. There's also possible money that we can get to the regional planning district. So the scope of this work, I think they have 90 days to complete once we sign this contract, and within that time also we'll be looking to identify the costs and the funding for what would be phase 2.
So these 9 tasks is outlined, that's only a 90-day period?
That's what they're telling us.
Okay, all right.
And it's been, I believe, over 30 years since we've done this?
Yeah, I want to say late 80s, and The firm that did it did a really good job, and our zoning ordinance served us well, but it's time to look at it.
I'll say that I was on a committee with Ms. Bailey, the chairman of the planning commission, myself and Mary, and we had 4 or 5, and it came down to 2, and told Mary to further investigate. And I think the whole, before it's all said and done, they're gonna do a turnkey job, but it'll come up to dollars and what have you. And we want user-friendly and not as thick a manual as we have. And Mary, let me ask you this. At this point, do we need, are there going to be public hearings during this process or just investigation?
Just investigation, and this is
Okay.
the study behind that, what our current ordinances have and how they're compliant or not.
Okay. Roll call.
Mr. Schoen,
Oh,
Go ahead.
I just got a couple questions. Staff at one time had done an internal review, correct?
Yes, we've been pinging at the same for several years, actually.
Right, but did staff make recommendations on changes to the ordinance? And so I guess what I'm saying is, once this is all said and done, is this going to be a recommendation that's given to council for under consideration, or how is that process going to look?
Ultimately, and don't hold me to this estimate, I'm thinking within a year and a half, we will have a completely revised zoning ordinance to be presented to the planning commission for their advice and to the council at that time for approval up or down. So we're looking at embarking upon a fairly comprehensive public process.
And at that point in the process, you'll be able to express your views and opinions.
Yes. It will require quite a bit of input from council, planning commission, and our citizens.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Mr. Schoen,
Aye.
Mr. Stanley,
Aye.
Mr. Black,
Aye.
Mr. Haley,
Aye.
Mr. Johannesson,
Aye.
Mr. Schley,
Aye.
Mayor Rush.
Aye.
Motion passes with 7 ayes.
And I believe that's all. We are adjourned.
Wow.
For that.